Hey, welcome back to 24/7 Moms. It's Trisha and
Steve.
We're so glad you're here to join us and hear a little bit of our morning conversation, or maybe you're listening to us in the afternoon or the evening, so we'll just call it a little bit of our conversation. Anyways, we were talking yesterday about, let me just turn my phone off or we're going to hear this all morning. We were talking yesterday, last night maybe, about what does it mean to be a leader. And there are two ways that people think about, like, what are the traits of a leader, right? Like what makes somebody look like a leader, or what are the characteristics of a leader? So we started talking about the importance about, gosh, I thought I turned all these things off. Sorry.
You just jumped right into it too. Like we even talked about this weekend.
Sorry. I was trying to jump into it because, we'll back up. The reason why I was trying to jump into it was we have decided that maybe we should make these videos shorter so that you get just a quick little conversation in the morning just to motivate you, encourage you, inspire you in your journey as parents, as moms, as people. And so I was just thinking, we better just jump right into it. So, okay, let's back up. How was our weekend?
Well, they got to have a chance to adjust, to look at us, to decide if what we're wearing is appropriate.
If your hair's okay.
If my hair, now hold on, I'm trying to do a little thing there.
Oh, sorry. You need a little gel.
Well, I'm thinning just a little bit out there, but they say that's because of testosterone.
Okay.
So, what can I say? And that's overproduction of testosterone, not underproduction.
Okay.
All right.
Whatever. Okay, back to our weekend.
But anyway, we had a great weekend, and
we went and saw the high school. Our local high school's musical that they do every spring. They do a musical. In the fall, they do a play, and in the spring, they do a musical. And we went and saw it was called the Wedding Singer, and it was fantastic.
The musical version of the one that we all watched with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore way back in the day, which is still a classic movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's got some great acting in it. But it was a phenomenal time. And then we just had a great weekend in our restaurant, which was unusual because it's bull riding at the local Tacoma Dome, which is our entertainment area. And so that meant the restaurant was jamming fast. And I had a great phone call yesterday from a fellow partner.
So was it a rodeo-like thing? Gosh,
yeah, it was bull riders.
I would have loved to have gone to that. I like going to those
And
things.
it was not a rodeo. It was just bull riding.
Oh, really?
I think. I mean, they just have their own little circuit.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's
but
big.
Anyway, it helped immensely. And not to mention, it's just been gorgeous here.
Yeah, the weather helps.
Yeah, so I think we covered the weekend now.
Oh, okay, so we can go back to talking about the character traits?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, we are talking about the differences between, why are the traits of, what is a leader? Who is a leader? What are they like? What do they do? Their actions versus what is their character. And I think that is so important, is the character of a leader, because if you can have these strong character traits in your life and who you are as a person, you automatically just start being a leader and people start following you. And when our kids, actually, I had this conversation with Nate yesterday. Nate was telling me something about one of his classes, and he was talking about his class, and I said, well, how does that work for you? He goes, I'm getting a good grade. And I said, I'm not worried about your grade as much. How is your character in the class? What would your teacher tell me about your character? Not about your grade. And sometimes, we put so much pressure on kids and so much pressure on everyone to perform and to be a certain way and to get good grades and get into a certain college and have a certain kind of job. We never talk about the character of a person. And I remember sitting in Nate's first grade teacher conference, and she was going on and on to me about what a great student Nate was and all these things academically. And I finally stopped and said to her, that's great, and we're really proud of him. But how is Nate's character in this class? How does he treat everybody else? How does he respond to you? What is his attitude? Is it positive? Is it negative? Does he take responsibility? All these things. And she just looked at me very wide-eyed. I feel like maybe I was the first parent to ever ask that question. I feel like they should get a report card on character just as much as on their academics.
Well, I got a report when I was in school. That was when I had to really work hard at. Didn't you get the citizenship grade?
Yes, but I think that was just, were you good? Did you show up for school? I don't think anyone really talked about the traits of a character. Do you remember them ever saying?
Well, I was a nice kid, so maybe you're right.
Stevie treated everybody nice. That's because he was a good learner. That's because he had a good attitude. Yeah, there is, but it's still not the focus, right?
Okay.
There are way more grades on that. So we were talking last night about what are the character traits of a leader. And so we have 5 that we thought, these are the 5 that would be important to us in our family, to teach our kids, in our lives as
is
humans,
what we do teach
right?
our kids.
Right, it is what we teach our kids. But as humans, like how do I behave and how do I respond to life? How we respond in our businesses, how we respond in our relationships with other people. These would be the things that we strive for. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Do we fall short sometimes? Yep. But this is where these would be what I would say would be our goals, where we're trying to be and who we want to be.
And if you want to give your family tools, and particularly your younger children, tools to succeed in life, I mean, to really make it, this isn't about a financial win, this is about a life win. These traits must be evident. They must have some semblance within their lives, because if they don't, they'll never really understand life from an empathetic way, which means that they'll never understand what it's like to be the other person.
Yes,
right? Their whole life is circularly rounded around them specifically.
Right.
And in our day and age, everyone gets a trophy, right? And everyone is a winner and all that. But this is a level of like, are you helping somebody else win?
Right.
So anyway, let's get into it.
The first one is think others first. And what does that really mean? Thinking about others first. It means valuing others. And so are we valuing other people with how we respond to them, how we treat them, how we speak to them? And I don't mean just your best friend or your spouse. I mean everybody around you. You know, if we were to attempt to try to value every person we came into contact, what would that look like? Like in a practical way, what does that look like?
Right.
So today, as we go about our day, and let's say I go to the Y, what does that look like in valuing others? Is it ignoring people as I walk by and keeping my head down? Or would it be actually looking them in the face and saying good morning or good afternoon and saying hello to them and hey, nice to see you again, or giving them a compliment? And I mean, that's a simple way. Just using your words is how to value
Some of
others.
it's cultural too.
Right.
And so, for instance, like when we were in Finland last year, I noticed that culturally they don't acknowledge you in a public place.
Okay.
In America, they do. So I remember walking by people along the sidewalk. Now in America, if you walk right by somebody, you at least look each other in the eye and acknowledge. Like,
sometimes I feel like I walk by a lot of people, they don't look at me.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they think you're rude?
No, they walk by me. I think that
maybe it's just me, but I had to like purposely like. I can't walk by somebody without saying some sort of connection.
Right.
But, okay.
So back to our family and what we're trying to talk about here today is is teaching our kids the importance of interacting with others around you.
I agree.
Valuing them, right? And adding value. How can you add value? So when you come to a conversation, not just making the conversation all about you and everything you can get for the conversation, but what can you add to it? As a person walking into a business meeting, sometimes, especially if we're leaders and we're people who like to be in charge, moi, walking into a situation and thinking, I'm not leading this, but what could I add to it?
Right.
Rather than saying the thing, well, it's not my job, I'm not in charge here. No. What could I actually add to it? Where could I bring value to that conversation? When people want to meet with Steve, he has to determine, okay, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to meet with them. So how can I add value to that conversation with them? How can I add value to what we're about to talk about? Rather than just listening to them and just, agreeing with whatever. No, how can you bring value to that? And so I think that that's a huge one, is teaching our kids to put others first. And that's not just verbally, that's doing things for others, right? Being a servant and helping others and, helping somebody with something that looks heavy, opening a door for somebody, constantly always putting other people first.
A lot of this too is caught, not taught in a, you can tell people that, but they need to see you play that out as well.
Yeah.
The way you treat people.
Absolutely.
We have a tool for you to help you with your kids to kind of give them a handle on this. And it's just super simple. We tell our kids, know this till they're sick in the face, that when we ask them, said, when you leave a conversation, do people around that circle feel better about themselves or do they feel less about themselves?
Right.
And that's really the pivoting test. Do people walk away and go, wow, I really like that person. Why would they like them? Because they treated them, they showed them value.
They were interested in who I was, right? So Steve has also taught our kids this formula, and it's about, I forget the acronym for it. It's teaching our kids that when they're in a conversation, it really helps them find out something about their family.
Call it form. Form,
that's right. Find something about their family, something about their occupation, something about their recreation, I mean, like what they like to do for fun, and something that will be will help you to remember them and more memorable, right?
Yeah. Memorable or a message that you could do to remember them and maybe leave them with something about you.
So, right away when you're teaching your kids that, they obviously interact in a conversation trying to find those things out, right? I've literally been in our car on our way to places and said to my kids, you need to seek out somebody at this event we're going to, and I want you to find out these things for me. And you need to interact in conversation where you are engaging with them, asking them about their family, about what they like to do, what they do for a job, or where they go to school, and asking them. That's equipping your kids to value others and think first about others.
It's an incredible tool. They will never not lack a job if they learn how to do this.
And you might be thinking, well, I thought thinking about others first was like thinking about how I could do something for somebody. That all comes, right? As soon as you get your kids, and as we begin thinking just those simple things about giving somebody a smile, giving somebody an encouraging word, that is a ricochet, domino effect onto doing the bigger things for people and putting others first in a bigger way globally.
Right.
Okay, so number 2, learner. This is something that we really personally strive for in our own life, and that is not just about acquiring knowledge, it's about applying the knowledge. So it's more about a hunger for wisdom, because wisdom means you're taking the application of knowledge and putting it to work.
It's just this feeling of like you're always a student. You're always learning. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way, because sometimes when you say student, it puts all these bad feelings.
Get me out of here. I don't want to be a student.
But that you are in a pursuit of truth in your life, right? You're in a pursuit of understanding your world, and that kind of it's like a curiosity of life, that you want to know more so that you can help people more, so that you can think others first. And this is a great application for your kids, that they can always know and learn something. And so, like, I was with some friends last night, and I was asking the young man that was with us, and I love this line because it made him really think. And I said, so teach me something. I was talking to him about his business. I said, teach me something. And then he started doing this, and there's a great strategy. If I ever say this to you out there in the world, just know that this is part of the strategy. So he keeps talking, right? So the number 2 most powerful question that a life coach can ask somebody when they're in the middle of talking is 3 words.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. I just said, tell me more. And he started going off again. And I said,
but what an opportunity. First of all, you showed him value by investing in what he was interested in, what really gives him life, right? And then he got to be, he was younger, but it put him in a place of more of a peer level with you, being able to teach you something. And it gave him value and made him feel confident, right? And what does that do to a young person? It makes them strive to want to learn as well, so that they can share with others the information they have. That people really do care about what they know and what information they have as well.
Yeah, it was a good time because I was able to give him value. But more than that, me as somebody wanting to help this young guy grow in his life where he's at, it all of a sudden allowed me to give him an inside glimpse of what he really thinks.
Absolutely.
And so just being a lifelong learner is a super important trait. And how do you do that?
So a learner isn't, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
a learner isn't always, because he was going to say that we can learn by books, right? Podcasts, going to seminars, by, I already said reading books. the internet. There's so many different ways we can listen to things. Our son Caleb, because
excuse me,
reading is not his strongest point, and that has been a struggle for him as a child. One of the ways that he learns is by listening. And I'll walk in to our bonus room and he'll have his phone playing something. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm listening to Reddit. So he has learned how to listen to the news and listen to different things to get that information that he wants to know to help build his knowledge.
Right.
And it's so fun because whenever we're in the car, he tells me news story after news story after news story of the things that he has been listening to. And so I'm so impressed with his ability to want to hunger after more information so that he can share it as well. But another way that we are learners is we seek feedback and counsel. And feedback means we are going to talk about the past of how we operate, how we do things so that we can learn from it. And we're going to seek counsel from others who have gone before us to how can we do it better. So that's another form of being a good learner, is our seeking out the feedback. We have to ask for it. We have to seek it out, and seeking out counsel of those that have gone before us. They say our capacity to grow determines our capacity to lead. So if we don't grow, we're not going to be able to lead.
Right. And feedback is important. Many times as you are doing development in a project or a business, one of the most important things, but it's the hardest to do sometimes, is just after the thing's over to take that quick moment before everything dies and figure out, okay, what worked, what didn't work. It's not about where were we heroes, where we weren't heroes. No. Yeah. It's about what worked, what didn't work. It's not personal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you need to see that for yourself.
Right. And so what is a great way that you can teach your kids that, right? Talking about situations that have happened and giving them feedback on what could have worked better and what couldn't have. It might be in school. It might have been how a teacher responded to them and how maybe they could respond differently next time. How they could maneuver through different relational situations with their friends, right? And then also teaching them to seek out counsel. Teaching our kids to go and ask a teacher for help. Teaching our kids to go and ask for different how to learn something, to seek out somebody that can teach them that. So those are ways to implement it into your family. Okay, number 3, expect the best.
Expect the best. So this is just developing a attitude of believing that you're going to have a good future, of believing that there's hope at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the day. And so many people through matter of circumstances, life looks in their mind at times glim or dark, and this is actually a mental practice of expecting a better future and expecting a better outcome, and it's that striving of working for a present that can be better than the past.
You know, you always hear the saying, how do you view a glass of water? A half glass of water, is it half empty or half full, right? So I heard an illustration that said it's full, it's just half full of water and half full of air. So it's a full glass already. And so that's such a positive way to look at it, right?
Right.
That teaching our kids to look at things with a positive attitude instead of the negative. What's the positive we can see? Yep, it might be a bummer situation, but what can we see the positive into it? And having that whole attitude of positivity versus negativity. Nobody wants to hang out with negative people, right? Nobody wants to follow negative people.
Right.
And if I'm trying to share my dream with you, let's say you're my team and I'm trying to get you on board with what I'm doing. If I told you all the hard ways, how the hard things it was going to be, all the awful things, all the negative things, why would you want to join me and do that, right? Why would your kids want to be part of whatever you're trying to encourage them? If you're telling the kids that we're going to go out and we're going to do yard work and it's going to be hard work and we're going to have to dig ditches, and you start telling them all the negative, why not tell them the positive? Like, hey, when we're done, it's going to look so beautiful and mom's going to be so happy because we did this yard work and we're going to grow vegetables and fruit, and talk about the positive things. Yeah, they still might not like the yard work.
Sometimes that doesn't always work. Right. As far as they know,
they might not like the yard work, right? But the words that went in their head were positive instead of negative. They didn't already go out there going, yep, Dad was right. It's going to be dang hard work today digging this ditch. Instead, they have to choose themselves now if they're going to have those negative words or the positive words. So you're just teaching them to look at things in a positive way.
Well, and you need to understand that this is more than just like a teachable moment, or this is more than I don't know how to say this, like you're just trying to be up and positive. No, what you are doing in having this kind of mind bend is that you are opening neural pathways toward a positive future, to a positive outcome, that it gives more opportunities to understand mentally what is happening. You are actually framing the way that your children reference life. And that's why you need to mimic it, and you need to look toward things and to the positive. It does now when things happen that would be a setback or things like that, it's part of the positive process, right? That if we don't struggle, we don't grow. So it's not about the struggle, right? It's about how to view the struggle, that it's a struggle going forward. So anyway, it's just opening up avenues of thinking for your kids. And so you just need to learn to practice expecting the best.
And it's hard because they're going to have a lot of negative in their life. They're going to have a lot of failures. They're going to have a lot of things, but trying to help them to see the best in it and to expect the best outcome of things as well. Okay, number 4 is accept responsibility. Oh, this one is the hardest. This is the hardest in a lot of ways because we are taught from the time we're very little on the playground, when something goes wrong, to get out of the way and do not accept responsibility for what just went down, right? Hurry and push it on someone else and let the blame go to somebody else so that we are not blamed for what just went down. We are always playing the blame game, right? And so we want to find a way to teach ourselves and our kids to accept responsibility for others and their actions. Don't blame it. We got to own it, right? So if I am if I have a team of people and something goes wrong on the team and somebody comes to me, my boss, let's say, comes to me and, says, hey, this went wrong. Do I make the decision right then to say, Susie did this, Susie blew it, Susie blah, 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 or do I own it and go, yeah, I messed up, because it was my lack of training or whatever, but I need to take responsibility, even if it was that person's, because I'm telling you, people don't want to follow a leader who does not accept responsibility, who's always throwing people under the bus, who's always looking for someone to blame. Because as a leader, really, honestly, it comes right down to it's a lack of training. Steve and I have this conversation often when something goes wrong in our business with a staff person, when something falls, through the cracks or, isn't a win, what happened? And it comes down often to our lack of telling expectations.
Where did maybe we fail in the situation, or how could we have helped it to be better?
Exactly. And so think about that with your kids in teaching them as well. Don't blame them all the time. Like if you tell them to do certain chores and then they don't do them exactly the way that you want them, think back first. Did you give good expectations? Did you give clear expectations? Did you give clear directions? Were they totally understanding? And so of course they need to accept responsibility if they do that, but also make sure that you don't need to. There's often I have to say to my kids, I made a mistake. I didn't explain that good enough to you. I didn't show you how to do that right. Here, this is how we're going to do it. And I have to own it.
Let me tell you why this is important, because why don't we want to accept responsibility? Because we don't want to take blame. We don't want to face up to things at times. And what you do when you accept responsibility is that you teach your children to have courage. You teach your children to face odds that would be against them and help them look life in the face and say, yeah, I was wrong. Yeah. But use it as that moment to move forward then, right? To expect the best for the future. How can we fix this? What can we do? And I just think that this is a real, when your kids really grasp this, you don't realize how all of a sudden you're making them a courageous child. You really are.
Which is number 5.
And that is respond.
When
you accept responsibility, you respond with courage. Right. And what it means is that you look life and you understand risk, and you're teaching your family how to be a courageous person. And I just love that, just to respond with courage on decisions.
Right. And so we want to teach our kids courage, whether it's responding to a situation or it's helping them to take risks, to be good decision makers, to not be afraid to make decisions, right or wrong. You want your kids to jump out there with courage and make that decision and then accept the responsibility of it, right? And then we want to teach our kids to have those hard conversations. We can spend a lot of our life avoiding conversations and not having the courage to face it.
Right.
And I like to call it awkward conversations. And I always say, well, I can either have the awkward conversation or I can live with regret. Meaning, if I don't own up to a conversation with somebody that I need to have, then I can live with regret for a long time thinking, I wish I would have had that conversation. I wish I would have said that. I wish I would have said no to accepting responsibility. Accepting commitment to do something versus having an awkward conversation saying, you know, it doesn't really work for my family. I don't want to do it. There's so many times in life where we take the other route and don't have the awkward conversation, and then we regret not having it. And it could be, like I said, as simple as a commitment that you're making to as hard as a conversation you have to have with a friend or with a child or with a family member, that it's hard. But in the end, you had that courage to do it, and it's so much better because you don't have the regret. You get it out there. So you have to take risk. You have to be a decision maker, and you have to have hard conversations.
That hard conversation is so difficult at times, but I'm telling you, it's just, it's trying to keep life clean. You know what I mean? You try to eliminate the I call it the cobwebs and the complications of the brain. Is that allow your brain to be this healthy running machine, and these type of things we're talking about here help your brain to learn, to grow, to become a better you.
Right. Nobody likes confrontation, right? Nobody.
No.
We don't like to confront the situation. But then what happens? It usually continues in a pattern of unhealthiness, right? So if we don't have that hard conversation with a relational situation, it continues down this path of unhealthiness, and we just keep covering it up, and we don't talk about it, right? We cover it up, we don't talk about it, so then there's this regret. So then we carry it, and then that makes it that much harder to ever have that conversation. So if we can just start having those hard conversations, whether it be in relationships, with our kids, whatever it is to stop. And because you know what that says? We're thinking about others first. We're saying, I care enough about you to have that hard conversation that, gosh, you might not love me as much, or I should say, love me, I shouldn't say, be as happy with me after I have that conversation, but down the road, they're going to appreciate it. One day, people will appreciate the fact that you had those hard conversations with them.
Think of others first. Be a lifelong learner. Hunger for wisdom. Expect the best, right? Accept responsibility, right? And then respond with courage.
That's it.
All right.
5 characters to help implement in your family to help them grow up to be leaders. Okay.
Have a great Monday. Take your day.
Bye.